Parry is looking at the moon and watching old Rambo films. And he joins us now. Good afternoon, Mike.
Oh, hi, guys. What a pleasure it is to speak to you, boys. I mean, when you're in self-isolation and human contact is but a dream, what an absolute pleasure and honour to be conversing with you fellas. I hope you're both in great health. I'm trying to keep healthy and fit. You're right about Rambo. I couldn't believe the response I got when I started telling people last night I was watching Rambo. One of the great films of all time.
I think Mr. Parry may have dropped off there.
We've lost him there. He was just, with a bit of a problem with his line.
He was just getting into full speed there. He was. Hear his voice.
It's not very difficult for him to pick up the pace again. Don't worry about that when he's back. But yes, he was watching Rambo First Blood. He was watching the first of the... Which is... have you ever seen, Andy? You ever seen a Rambo film?
Yeah. Of course. I saw the first one, yeah. It was,
yeah.
You know,
so we'll attempt to get Mr. Parry.
You've seen one, you've seen them all, really, haven't you? I think. But it's up to him if he likes. While we're waiting for Mr. Parry, we have had some brilliant examples of people being absolute... I think they're called COVID idiots or something like that, or COVIDiots.
COVIDiots, I would imagine.
COVIDiots, I think, is the hashtag. But a man from Coventry ignored the coronavirus lockdown by driving to pick up windows he bought on eBay for £15. His wife was forced to sit in the boot as she couldn't fit in the car. The driver was stopped by North West Motorway Police on the M6 during the 220-mile round trip. Having collected his purchase in Salford, officers issued the man with a traffic offence report. People are bonkers.
Wow. Bit of a shock when they opened the boot. How did they know she was in there? Did they probably not need to check the boot or something?
She really thought it was Rob Brydon.
Is Mike back? Yeah, is he resurfaced? It sounded like his phone had died on him, or it had that sort of sound. It didn't go Norman Collier. It just went doof. And we want to know more about the fact that he's been looking at the moon. You know a fair bit about sport, Andy, but did you know anything about the flying cholitas? You ever heard of the flying cholitas?
The Flying Cholitas? No, I can't say I have. Who are the Flying Cholitas?
I'll tell you later. Because Mike...
Oh, no.
Because Mike... Oh, yeah, don't touch that dial. Because Mike Parry is back. Mike, you were just in full flow. You were talking about the first Rambo film.
That's right, absolutely. First Blood, and I thought it was an astonishing film, loved it, and it got a fantastic reaction from people, because I think we have to get out of ourselves at the moment. You know, life can be pretty trying when you're self-isolating, so to see a guy like Rambo, what I love about Rambo was the world was against him for something he didn't do, but that didn't let him stop himself from trying to prove he was the victor, and in the end, he came out on top. Well, I mean, he got a life sentence in jail, but, he kind of made his point to the local sheriff, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I suppose he did. I mean, he came out on top having got a life sentence in jail. We know what you mean. Now, we spoke to you last week, and you were saying, Mike, that you were looking back on the work of Sir Isaac Newton in isolation during the plague.
Yes.
And he came up with his theory of gravity, of course, at that point. And you had big plans. It seems you've been turned into astronomy this week. Is that right?
Well, no, not so much astronomy, more the moon. Now, what happens is, fellas, as you know, being a scholar of journals and all things written, I get lots of books sent to me. Yeah. And a lady called Kirsty Gallagher, but not the Kirsty Gallagher of sports fame, right? Okay. This woman is a renowned sort of astrophysicist, and she's written a book about the moon. Yeah, and I got this book, and I've worked out now why during some phases of my life, people might have thought I was a bit odd. It wasn't my fault. It was to do with the fact that 90% of your body is made up of water. So as the moon affects the tidal pull of seas on this planet, it also affects the tidal pull of water inside your body. And I seem to be particularly susceptible to a full moon. Right. So all this, stuff over the years about, loonies go out on the full moon and all that, there is actually some truth into the fact that people can get very excitable on full moons. So some of the more well-publicised mistakes I've made in the past, I may now appeal against on the basis that it happened on the night of a full moon.
What do you get up to then when there's a full moon, Mike? What generally happens to you? Do you start getting very hairy hands?
well, no, but you see, I've never put the connection together before. Right. But now I've looked at the charts, and when full moons come up, and when they've come up, and I've looked at my diaries going back 20 years, and some extraordinary things that have happened to me. You know, maybe I've made the odd misjudgment here or there. You know, has been on the night of a full moon. I think I've got a great case for an appeal against things that people may have misunderstood in the past, if you see what I mean.
What a wonderful excuse.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah. Try and get that one through a court of law. Now, the other thing I want to tell you about, fellas, is I'm into mindfulness as well.
Oh, good.
This is something that you should all get into. And I tell you what, it's so easy to do when it's self-isolating, because what you have to do is you have to actually detach your mind from the rest of your body for about 2 minutes and just let everything drain out of your body. And what you do is you focus on one particular thing you look at. And what I look at when I'm doing this for 2 minutes a day is a picture, which I'm looking at now, of Dixie Dean in full flight in the 1927-28 season at Goodison Park with the famous church in the corner behind him. I only have to focus on that for 2 minutes, and suddenly I come back in like I've been hypnotised. I'm a new person.
Really? So we should all just take an image like that that just sort of takes us away from everything that's going on.
Yes, no, I'm quite serious. I mean, honestly, because, you know, isolation means that you've got not 4 walls around you. I mean, obviously 4 walls in one room, but if you've got 6 rooms, it's 24 walls. But what I'm saying is... sorry, yeah. But what I'm saying is, you can go a bit stir-crazy. Now, I do go out, fellas, and I go out because I have to, for instance, pick up the medicines, okay? And the medicines are important to keep the heart going. I'm a critical case. Now, what I really object to when I'm out, and the roads are pretty deserted, the pavements are deserted, and I cross over and somebody's coming the other way because I don't want to get into their space, right? But if a jogger runs around the corner like they did yesterday as I came out of my surgery, and nearly bumped into me, and he was panting like a steam train, right? That guy's exhaling about 100 times more breath than an ordinary person walking would do, and that is scattering all over the atmosphere. And I think joggers should now be banned during this crisis period in the country, because I think they are exhaling and expelling potentially large amounts of poisonous air which could give people the virus.
Well, we did talk about this on the show yesterday. It's funny, Mike, you should mention Dixie. Yes, we did. It's funny you should mention Dixie Dean there, because it reminds me of very early days of the show. We used to speak to Chessie, Lisa Francesca Nand. And do you remember, Paul, her grandmother was a very old woman at the time. She was about in her 90s. But she knew Dixie Dean. She went to
Dixie Dean's 21st birthday party. She was at the party. What about that?
That's incredible. My grandfather, Andy, lived in the same street as Dixie Dean in Prenton in Birkenhead, and was a friend of his, and went to the 1933 FA Cup final with him. And through a family connection, I've got one of the only handwritten letters that Dixie Dean ever wrote, and he wrote it to a mate of his, and it was about settling a betting debt, okay? And he signed himself. He hated the title Dixie, and he signed it at the end, Bill, because his real name was William Ralph Dean, and he didn't like being called Dixie. And that letter is going to the new Dixie Dean Hotel in Liverpool, okay? And it will be in a glass case on the wall as an artifact, you know, from the Dixie Dean era. And it'll have a little plate underneath saying, donated by Mike Parry. You see what I mean?
Oh, okay, right.
Brilliant.
That's
great.
Stuff. We'll look out for that.
Absolutely.
You're looking at the moon, finding out more about the moon. We said Rupert Bell's making rhubarb chutney. Pete's been in touch. He lives in Sheffield. He said, I'm a semi-pro rugby player, 6'2", 17 stone prop. My wife thinks it's very funny that during lockdown I've been making raspberry pavlova, coffee and walnut cake, and a lemon meringue. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's fantastic. All round the Pete's, I think. Sounds very nice. What have you been? What's the kind of culinary delights of you in lockdown, Mike? What have you been eating?
What I have found out is that you do eat far more regularly. I mean, I like being out and about, and you visit bars and you have a packet of peanuts or something, you know, and a few beers, and then you might get like a roll and take it on the train on the way home, and then not eat a proper dinner and all that kind of stuff. And I do find that eating regularly is a bit strange. But the other thing I find out, and you know, I suppose I'm now empathising with housewives over the centuries, is that my kitchen now is full of washed pots, washed plates, washed cutlery, washed everything. Yeah. I've never seen like it. In fact, I've discovered pans and casserole dishes and things which my mum, God rest her soul, has been buying me over the years, which never got out of the packet. You know what I mean? and now I didn't know what a casserole pot was. I thought it was something she'd given me to put a plant in, and then I went and bought some chicken fillets and asked somebody what you do with them, and you put them apparently in a casserole pot. You know, hadn't got round to that yet. But I suppose one guy who can tell you all about the diet is your great friend who's coming on the show a bit later, Harry Hill.
Oh yes.
Who and do you know what so interests me about Harry? Who I'm a huge fan of his, and Paul, you've obviously got a very close connection there. You both have, but I did a TV show with another doctor called Simon Brodkin.
Oh
and
yes.
Simon was the guy who handed Mrs. Thatcher her P45. You know. And I had like a fascinating sort of half hour in the green room with Simon. And it's almost impossible to put together the huge intelligence a doctor needs to be able to, you know, ply his trade and qualify and all that kind of stuff with the extraordinary genius of comedy that these guys come out with. Maybe to really have got where I wanted to get in life, I should have gone and got a medical degree first, you know. If I was a brain surgeon, people might listen to me a bit more.
I think you would have made a great brain surgeon, Mike. I would have had no doubt at all if I was confronted with you as a brain surgeon that you'd be the right man to sort me out. So
brilliant.
Well, look, we will catch up with you next